A century of fighting, a look at the Hundred Years' War. The Hundred Years' War. It's a famous name in history. This conflict, spanning over a century, was one of the most significant and transformative periods in medieval Europe. It reshaped the political landscape and had lasting impacts on both England and France. A long fight between England and France. This wasn't just a simple war, it was a series of battles, truces, and shifting alliances that kept the two nations in a state of near constant turmoil. From 1337 to 1453, these two kingdoms fought for power. The war began over claims to the French throne, but it evolved into a broader struggle for dominance in Europe. Imagine a war lasting over 100 years, longer than most people live. Generations were born and died, knowing only conflict. The war affected every aspect of life, from the economy to daily routines. This was real life for the people living during the 100 Years' War. Villages were often caught in the crossfire, and civilians had to adapt to the constant threat of violence. Sometimes they fought hard, sometimes there was peace, but not for long. Even during truces, the threat of renewed fighting loomed large, making true peace a rare and fleeting experience. New weapons were invented, and old ways of life disappeared. The long duration of the war saw significant advancements in military technology and tactics, changing the nature of warfare forever. The Hundred Years' War wasn't just one big fight, but lots of smaller fights connected together. Each battle, siege, and skirmish played a part in the larger conflict, creating a complex tapestry of warfare. Both sides won and lost battles. The fortunes of war shifted frequently, with neither side able to maintain a decisive advantage for long periods. The fighting spread, and soldiers from all over Europe joined in. Mercenaries and allies from various regions were drawn into the conflict, making it a truly continental war. The Hundred Years' War was about power, land, and the future of two nations. It was a struggle that defined the medieval era and set the stage for the modern history of England and France. The start of the trouble fighting over the throne. The Hundred Years' War started because of who would be king. In 1328, the French king, Charles IV, died without a son. This caused a big problem. Edward III of England, Charles IV's nephew, thought he should be the next king of France. His mother, Isabella, was Charles IV's sister, but the French said no. They had a law called Salic law that said a woman couldn't pass the throne to her son, so they made Philip VI, a cousin of Charles IV, the new king. Edward III was very angry. He thought the French stole what was rightfully his. This started the big fight. England as well. England wins big with the longbow. The longbow was not just a weapon, it was a game-changer in medieval warfare. Its introduction marked a significant shift in how battles were fought and won. At the beginning of the Hundred Years' War, England won many battles. These victories were not just due to luck or sheer numbers, but were a result of strategic planning and the effective use of the longbow. Edward III was a good leader, and he had a new weapon, the longbow. His leadership and the innovative use of the longbow allowed the English to dominate early battles. English archers could shoot many arrows very far with this powerful bow. The longbow's range and power meant that English archers could strike from a distance, often before the enemy could get close enough to retaliate. The longbow was very strong against older armies. Traditional knights, clad in heavy armor, found themselves vulnerable to the piercing arrows of the longbow. The Battle of Crécy in 1346 showed how powerful the longbow was. This battle was a turning point, demonstrating the effectiveness of the longbow in large-scale combat. A small English army, led by Edward III and his son, beat a much bigger French army. The English forces, though outnumbered, used their longbows to devastating effect, decimating the French ranks. The French knights, wearing heavy armor, were easy targets for the English arrows. Crécy surprised everyone. The French, who had relied on their heavily armored knights, were unprepared for the sheer volume and power of the English arrows. The old way of fighting was over. The success of the longbow signaled a shift in military tactics, moving away from the dominance of heavily armored knights to more versatile and mobile units. The French lost again at the Battle of Poitiers in 1356. This battle further cemented the reputation of the longbow as a decisive weapon in the English arsenal. Again, the English longbow was the key. The English archers with their longbows played a crucial role in the victory at Poitiers, just as they had at Crécy. The French king, John II, was captured, and France was in trouble. The capture of the French king was a significant blow to French morale and leadership. In 1360, they agreed to stop fighting for a while with the Treaty of Bretigny. This treaty marked a temporary halt in the hostilities, giving both sides a chance to regroup and reassess their strategies. Edward III gave up his claim to the French throne, but he got a lot of French land. This land acquisition was a significant gain for England, solidifying their presence in France and setting the stage for future conflicts. France gets stronger. France fights back. When Edward III died in 1377, things changed. His son Richard II wasn't a good king, but France had a new, smart king, Charles V. Charles V knew he had to change how the French fought. He made the French army stronger, teaching them to be organized and smart, not just strong. He knew it was bad to fight big battles against the English longbow, so he fought small battles and attacked castles, making the English tired. Slowly, the French took back their land. When Charles V died in 1380, France was winning. England attacks again, a renewed English threat. The early 15th century saw a resurgence of English ambition and military prowess, spearheaded by a determined and charismatic leader. At the start of the 1400s, England started winning again under King Henry V. Henry V, a young and ambitious monarch, was determined to reclaim the glory and territories that England had lost in previous conflicts. He wanted the French throne and invaded France. His claim was based on his lineage and the historical ties between the English and French crowns, which he believed gave him a legitimate right to rule. France was fighting amongst themselves, which Henry V wanted to use to his advantage. The French nobility was deeply divided, with internal conflicts weakening their ability to mount a unified defense against the English invasion. The Battle of Agincourt in 1415 was another big win for England. This battle became legendary, not just for the victory itself, but for the way it was achieved against overwhelming odds. Even though they had fewer soldiers and the ground was muddy, Henry V's army and their longbows beat the French. The English longbowmen played a crucial role, their arrows raining down on the French knights, causing chaos and confusion. Agincourt scared France and made Henry V stronger. The victory not only boosted English morale, but also struck fear into the hearts of the French, who now saw Henry as a formidable and unstoppable force. He attacked more, taking important cities and castles. Henry's campaign continued with relentless sieges and battles, capturing key strategic locations that further solidified his control over French territories. In 1420, he made the French sign the Treaty of Troyes. This treaty was a monumental achievement for Henry as it recognized his claims and ambitions, effectively making him the heir to the French throne. This treaty said Henry V would be the next king of France, not the French prince, Charles VII. The agreement was a significant blow to the French prince Charles VII, who was disinherited in favor of the English king. It looked like England would finally take over France. With the Treaty of Troyes in place and Henry's military successes, it seemed inevitable that England would dominate France, altering the course of European history. The Maid of Orleans, Joan of Arc, helps France. When France had almost lost, a young farm girl became a hero. Joan of Arc, a very religious Catholic, said God told her to help Charles VII become king. Joan's strong belief made the French people believe in her too. Joan convinced Charles VII to let her lead the army. She helped the French win a big battle at Orléans in 1429. This victory made her famous as the Maid of Orléans. She became a symbol of French strength and gave hope to the army. France wins back its land. Even though Joan of Arc was a great leader, something bad happened. In 1430, the Burgundians, who were friends with the English, captured her. They gave her to the English, who said she was a witch and against the church. The trial wasn't fair. The English wanted Joan gone. In 1431, they burned her. But this made the French even more determined. They fought harder and took back more land. The English, fighting among themselves and against a strong France, started to lose. A changed world. What the war changed. The last part of the 100 Years' War took many years. The English fought hard but kept losing land. The Battle of Castillon in 1453 was the last big battle. France, led by Charles VII, won the war. The 100 Years' War changed both England and France. England lost its French lands and wasn't as powerful in Europe anymore. It also made English people feel more connected as one nation. The war also made the English Parliament stronger. In France, the war made the king more powerful and helped create one united French nation. The war hurt France's farms and cities, but it also created a new kind of professional army. The end, a big moment in history. The 100 Years' War was a very important time in European history. It was the end of the Middle Ages and the start of modern times. The old ways disappeared and new weapons like gunpowder changed how wars were fought. Kings in England and France became much more powerful. The 100 Years' War, with its many battles, heroes and villains, is still interesting today. It's a story about wanting power, being betrayed, being brave, and never giving up. It shows how important it is to belong to a country and how much war hurts people. Most of all, it shows how strong the people were who fought and died in this long war.